All right, guys. So good evening. Let's start task 1B, the fourth case study. We're progressing really well. Some of you are doing some great answers. Others are yet to start. Please make sure that you be up to pace. Right now, we are looking at task 1B. We have finished task 3. Last session, we did task 1A. Next session, 2A and 2B. After that, we go into our feedback sessions. So we are moving fast, which means you have enough time for you to do your one-to-one sessions with me after you finish the entire assignment. Right? So we're going to do the one-to-one sessions after you finish the entire assignment. That will be done hopefully starting next month. So we have enough time for that. Okay. So let's get started, guys, on 1B. Before I start, I want to take you through some documents. Number one is recommended reading by CIM UK. Sustainable Marketing, written by the former GMD senior examiner. Right? Not the current one, the former one. Very good book. It talks about the triple bottom line and so many other sustainability contemporary practices. If you want to have some references from this, it might be useful, right? So task 1B is 15 marks, 750 words. Here's another book that you can use. This is on corporate sustainability, very good book. Again, you can use this, right? If you want to have some references. Okay, then I want to start today's discussion by looking at the question first. Let's do that. So you're really lucky this question has been repeated, right? You're really lucky, word to word, this question has been repeated. So let's look at it. 1B, for the Shell case study, 750 words, past paper. There was one extra assessment criteria for the Shell one, which is AC 6.3. Otherwise, the assessment criteria is also the same. So the question was critically appraise the extent to which Shell has been successful in delivering its corporate social responsibility CSR agenda to address stakeholder concerns and expectations. Right? So the same question has been repeated in the fourth case study. 15 marks, task 1B, 750 words. Same command word, critically appraise the extent to which the Ford Motor Company has been successful in delivering its CSR agenda to create competitive advantage and address key stakeholder preferences. The only extra words there are competitive advantage. Otherwise, it is the same question. Otherwise, it is the same question. Right? So this is the book I wanted you to look at, CIM recommended reading, if you want to use some references. Here are the examiner's comments in your assignment. Starts from here for this question. In answering task 1B, the examiner wants you to use CSR theories. So there are a few CSR theories, two main ones. One is the triple bottom line. The other one is the CSR pyramid. There are some other theories as well. which we can talk in the answer, but as a basis, the examiner wants you to use the triple bottom line or the CSR pyramid. So this economic, legal, ethical responsibilities come in the CSR pyramid. Triple bottom line is mentioned. Stakeholder theory is another theory, from Mandela matrix to expectation analysis. You are doing all that in the strategic audit, which you can link in your answers. If you do have any questions, please type in your questions. So we start by asking ourselves, why is CSR important? And I can write 5 slides on why is CSR important. There are so many reasons as to why CSR is important. But these are a few, because you can't write about too many in the introduction. Introduction must be kept very short, small paragraph, use a citation from recommended reading. So why is CSR important? There are many reasons. It increases your employee retention, engagement, improves customer loyalty. It also, in the long run, brings about better profits, because you end up saving a lot of money, especially if you go into sustainable energy. More support for local and global communities, so you can engage your stakeholders. Increased investment opportunities. You can also, you have sustainable financing sources. There are people like the World Bank, so many other places like the UN and other interesting global agencies who are willing to fund the projects. And these are commercial projects that companies can apply to the fund, and they will give you the money at a concessionary loan rate or interest free sometimes, if you show them the benefit towards the environment and society. So big companies leverage this. Press opportunities, PR, brand awareness. Sustainability is always about, communication. So in the strategic communication, in the corporate brand, reputation, corporate storytelling, you can bring about your sustainability credentials. To position your brand as a brand that is environmental friendly and socially responsible. Increase customer retention and loyalty. A stronger employer brand, your employees will feel engaged and love the company. It will profile the company's reputation, deepen your competitive advantage, because others may not have a sustainability strategy, a CSR strategy. It is a strong point of differentiation, and sometimes you can command a price premium, just like companies like MAS does it very well, charge a price premium. Dilmah is also another good company that does a lot of sustainability efforts, and that is reflected in the price premium that they charge, because it's a story that they can sell to their customers, right? So these are some of the reasons as to why CSR is a good strategy. And some theory, I took you through the 2 theories. This is Carroll and Bushall's CSR pyramid. Right at the bottom is the economic responsibility. The first principle, that the responsibility that the managers have is towards the shareholders. You have to first run the company at a profit. That's called the economic responsibility. And you have to deliver profits. Without delivering profits, you can't do any CSR. Now, after you deliver a decent amount of profit, you do it also within a legal framework. You have a legal responsibility and an ethical responsibility and a philanthropic responsibility to give something back to society from what you have earned and gained. So I've given you a note with examples here. We did this during lectures. Then we have the ESG theory. ESG theory, environmental, social, governance theory, 3 pillars. So a company need to have strategies that they adopt, environmental strategies, social strategies, and governance strategies. So many companies adopt different approaches. If you read the annual reports or their corporate sustainability reports, which is a separate report from the annual report, you will see the organizations in Sri Lanka, Unilever, some of the banks like HNB, some of the other companies like Ceylon Tobacco, John Keels, are companies that have corporate sustainability strategies and corporate sustainability reporting, which is a report that is audited by an external consultant and a rating given every year on their carbon footprint and what they are doing towards recycling, which is something that they can sell to their stakeholders, especially customers, to show their environmental, social, and governance, corporate governance, their ethical stance, the corporate governance, how they run the company, the professionalism. A regenerative economy is a term that I want you to use. I'll show you where. Regenerative means it's a principle, it's a business philosophy that gives back far more to society and the planet than what it takes. So you are using the raw materials, including water, energy, air, and all these areas are getting polluted. How you dispose your waste, landfill, how you pollute the waterways, the rivers, the streams. If you go near Unilever today, I don't know if many of you have done this, but if you walk in Armour Street around Unilever, all the areas are polluted. All the waterways are polluted. And you can feel the smell of soap for so many kilometers away. So the damage that these companies do to the environment, if you really assess it, the only way that they can give back is to regenerate. So they have to plant trees, they have to understand their carbon footprint, they have to engage in other environmental activities and social activities. And all this is captured in what we call the UN Sustainability Development Goals. I think many of you know this, but those of you who don't know, United Nations have put forward their goals for sustainability. So most companies embrace one or few of these goals, and they define what they are going to do in their sustainability and their CSR agenda. Because when it's aligned to the UN SDGs, right? Sustainability Development Goals, that means there's greater purpose. And you can measure it, have KPIs. So UN SDGs are something that many companies use. And I want you to talk about it. Triple bottom line, profit, people, planet. We have done this. Companies should not only focus on economic profit, bottom line. You should also try to earn social profits, which is the people strategy, and the environmental profits, which is the planet strategy. And there are many things that you would do, initiatives that you'll undertake in the triple bottom line to be profitable, equitable, and then to be socially responsible in the other 2 areas in terms of the planet and people, or environment and society. So we have done this when we did theory. We have looked at the strategies for the triple bottom line. This is from my book. and some of the A grade answers. So you can do a comprehensive triple bottom line in your strategic audit. But here, can you see it's a small space used, so don't use too much. But my answer, I have given you a very big analysis in my Excel sheet, but you have to pick and choose what you want to use. You have to pick and choose what you want to use. Okay, because I can't give you a small answer, then all of you will write the same thing. And there's a lot to say. Let's go through that. So as you can see, the triple bottom line is a small analysis, but it's the basis of your answer. Then we have to also link the stakeholder conversation. For Mandela matrix, you know the Mandela matrix where you prioritize the key players based on the level of power and interest. And then you plot them like this. And then the key players, you have key account managers, a special budget, relationship management program, CRM programs for the high level of interest, high power stakeholders identified in a business. And then analyzing stakeholder expectations, the stakeholder expectation analysis that almost all of you have done by now. Simple theory. Who are the direct, indirect? Who are the internal, connected, and external stakeholders? And what are their expectations? Simple theory. So you can see some of the A grade answers I've given you. Some of the A grade answers I've given you. On the stakeholder analysis. So you need to do comprehensive stakeholder analysis and triple bottom line for the strategic audit. So the question is very clear. Now, I want to, before I go into the answer, I want to take you through some of the A grade answers. So it's very simple. For the same question, there are many A grades. So I have just selected only 20 because I don't want to confuse you. And I'll show you some of the A grade answers. And it becomes very simple once you understand the structure of the answer. Right? Okay, so let's look at some A grades and simplify our answer. So for the same question, 750 words, this student started off with a small introduction. As you can see, the Gemma Butler Carlville Evans book is cited, but it's not cited properly. The year needs to come there. Stakeholder Mandela matrix is also put in the audit, but it's bought here. And then there's a nice table it goes into where it talks about the triple bottom line, right? The economic, social, and environmental critical appraisal of what they are doing right now. So when you say critical appraisal, you have to talk about the good things they are doing, and you have to also talk about what they are not doing, but they need to start, which is why I have given you a lot of ideas in my answer, because you need to recommend certain things that they need to start, right? And then the impact on stakeholder concerns and expectations and the competitive advantage story you can bring in the next column. And then put a rating, can widen margins so that the table becomes fairly big. And 750 words, a small conclusion can come in the end. So this is one answer. This is one answer. Shall we go through a few templates? Here's another one. Right. So here too, there is again, the CIM recommended reading book is used, introduction, stakeholders are prioritized. The student has also gone into a table and there is a discussion here and there's some data as well. Again, the triple bottom line is used in the table. But I like this answer because it brings about a lot of key terms which are also highlighted in red. Try and avoid red. If you're highlighting it, put it in another color, because red is reserved for the examiner. But if you read this answer, this is a very well done answer. Simple answer on the triple bottom line and the impact on stakeholder expectations. And there is some level of data. Simple, when you're talking about the shareholders, some simple charts and graphs from the case study are brought about to enhance the answer. Right? And finally, it concludes with a business case for CSR. So I gave this to the students to come up with a business case, and I've given them 4 steps. So this is what the student has done to graphically illustrate the business case as to why CSR should be spoken of. Here's another good answer. Now, a big introduction here, right? Then you have the Mandela matrix, and it goes into a table. So you can see now a pattern is starting to emerge with a conclusion, right? Let's go to the next one. The more A-grade answers you read, you will find a template that you can adopt, and your answer becomes easy. Now this, why am I showing you this? This is not using a table when it starts. It's only using an expectation analysis and a Mandela matrix, but it's not using it in the start, it's using it in the end. But remember, some of these things can go to the audit. You don't need to waste your word count on this. But this answer has still got a grade. Why CSR? Remember, I've given you some reasons as to why CSR. Then the Carroll model is being used here, CSR pyramid, not the triple bottom line. The CSR pyramid is being used here. And then a discussion on stakeholders, Mandela matrix and stakeholder expectation analysis. So there's no one best way to answer in CIM. You are lucky that these students have left a legacy behind for you to benchmark. So I'll give you the answer, don't worry. I'll tell you what to write, and I'll give you my views. This student has also written an introduction, so you can see a pattern now, expectation analysis, Mandela matrix, and then the table that talks about profit, people, and planet, which is the CSR, which is the triple bottom line. Final answer before we look at the answer. I've given you 20 A grades. I just showed you only 6. Use a nice cow page, yes. So this answer starts from here. It talks about the Maslow's hierarchy, but you don't need to use the Maslow's hierarchy as such. But it takes into account the stakeholders. I like the presentation here where it has brought in some data. So you can bring in some data as well. And it's talking about the current target and the achievement, and a rating is given. So you have to stick to case material here, right? So this answer has a fair degree of data. Right, so I want to now show you the answer plan that I've given you. Before that, what do you include in the audit? So we have good news. We've just won the World Prize for level 7 once again. So we have 4 World Prizes now in a row. And it's amazing. 2024 #1 student once again for CIM is from Sri Lanka, CCBM, Cambridge College. Unfortunately, she's at an event, so she can't talk to you today, but next class, hopefully she'll come to talk to you and motivate you. And I will find her assignment tomorrow and send it across to you. So 2021, World Prize winner from Sri Lanka, 2022, 2023, and 2024, that's 4 in a row. You will be the 5th. You will be the 5th. 5th will come from your batch or the next batch. Right? So within 2 cohorts, we have to pick the next World Prize winner. So you can see the effort that we are putting into your assignments, and the rewards are amazing, right? Because winning a world prize, which means you are beating all the other students. And for the highest qualification, level 7, right? Which is a significant achievement. Right. So for the audit, I have proposed something like this, but I think this is too long for you. So you pick and choose what you want. So we know the strategy, profit, people, and planet. I have 3 points under each. Let's start with Ford's economic performance. So I think in terms of R&D and innovation, we're doing a little bit, but we can do more because our competitors, especially Toyota, Mercedes, BMW, are a little ahead of us, especially Toyota, Volkswagen. Toyota is ahead of us, and General Motors. In the US, you are behind General Motors and Toyota. And then you have obviously the Volkswagen and the premium two brands, Mercedes and BMW. So in terms of innovation and R&D, we need to focus on smart manufacturing, which is a concept that the case study talks about, especially focusing on CASE technologies. CASE technologies, I think you know what CASE stands for: connected, autonomous, shared, and electric. That's the future. So smart manufacturing and clean energy. So whilst you look at your manufacturing factory setup, you also need to look at R&D in terms of alternate energy sources. Right at the bottom there, we have Porsche that uses synthetic fuels, or they're testing on synthetic fuels. Reverse Simples using the blue energy, hydrogen, water, blue energy we call it. So they're using alternate, efficient, and they're exploring R&D through R&D, other clean energy sources. Of course, you have the hybrids and the electrics, but electric also has, at the end of the life cycle, the battery after 10 years, extremely hazardous. So innovation and R&D will focus on smart manufacturing and clean energy, leveraging emerging digital technology to develop smart mobility solutions that will improve sustainability credentials, and carbon footprint. And in the long run, will improve efficiency and reduce costs. So another area is, can Ford develop some intellectual property and patents and global awards on EV technology, which will create a strong strategic lock-in. 3D printing is used to manufacture parts. Today, how do we continue to do that very well? And not only manufacture parts, but solutions and a range of advanced tech. There's also ISO standards on quality standards that we are all already accredited, but we are a late entrant to exploring alternative fuel options. So others are streets ahead there. Then the second point under economic profit is shareholder value creation. So we will be making strategic investments, or we have to make strategic investments in NPV positive projects. You know what NPV, net present value. So in NPV positive projects means you're making money. So we have to make strategic investments and also socially responsible investing. Socially responsible investing. You can Google and read up these terms, okay? I want you to use these terms in your answer. And improve the electric vehicle business model to make profits by benchmarking Tesla and Toyota. They are the leaders, especially Tesla. So we still don't know how to make money with electric. Our volume is low. Electric is the future, but our volume is low. And we don't seem to be coming up with anything exciting on the electric front. We've just launched 2 models, but that's not enough. If you look at Toyota's electric strategy and Tesla's, especially Tesla's, they're streets ahead. So we have some catching up to do there, and we need to do it fast. It's possible. We just need to understand how to make money. So we need to improve our business model. And the adverse reputation owing to placement of factories resulted in large losses. And minimize defects and product recalls similar to Toyota. So Toyota had some problems. We should ensure that our defects are at minimum, because there can be adverse reputational issues. And improve the domestic market share performance. 13% in the domestic market is not enough. Even Toyota has more, being a Japanese company. So we are behind. Learn from Tesla's strategy to boost market cap. Tesla is making good money, not only in their core business, but also with their market capitalization, the share market. So their share price is very, very high. So we need to learn that model. There's nothing stopping us. We're a 100-year-old company. So we need to learn that. It's a skill we don't have. Benchmark Toyota to create compelling business model for CSR. So Toyota is also, having a very strong case for CSR. They have integrated the CSR with their business strategy. Social impact to fit with the core business strategy. How do we find a link between the business strategy and our social impact? And there's something called green bond principles. You can read up on that. So that is to leverage sustainable financing sources for green projects, where there are funding agencies that pay a lot of money, sometimes without any interest for you to pay back. And these are for large commercial companies for EV infrastructure development and so many other things, from solar to so many things, right? So we have access to those as long as we put up a good project proposal. There's a lot of dollars that people are willing to give you if you're giving back to the environment. And the third point under the first one, which is the economic performance or profit, is optimized operations and logistics. So how we can practice, how we can employ TQM, Six Sigma, Kaizen, all the principles of lean management to improve efficiency, productivity, speed to market, be agile, reduce waste. Union actions we need to avoid as much as possible and go into, we've said that in the culture area as well here, go into a pro-union strategy that we used to have in 2001, a pro-union strategy, bring it back, a pro-employee, pro-union strategy, which was caring about each other. That was a CEO who delivered that in 2001, and they turned the company around. So we can't afford to have issues with people. Unionization. And develop an integrated business model for mobility as a service, MaaS. That should be capital S. Right, so we discussed this in the previous classes, mobility as a service. Modernize the EV production process. Modernize it so that we can compete with the big players, with the Chinese players, with Tesla, with Toyota, and others, including Mercedes and BMW. And use big data to generate insights and analytics. So I think you have a lot to write about here, but don't use all this. Pick and choose what you want to write on in the answer, because you have only 750 words. You can't write so much. But I'm giving you a lot of thoughts to write here so that you can pick and choose. Otherwise, all of you will write the same thing. So if you think this is not for you, just skip and go to the next point. Under social performance, people, corporate governance and ethics is a point. So now even these points, guys, don't use the same points I've given, okay? Change it. Don't use the same points, it will get plagiarized. So under social performance, corporate governance and ethics, the corporate governance strategy, which should include transparency, accountability, philanthropy. You're already doing some philanthropy in 30 plus countries, and we need to strengthen that. Encourage staff volunteering, develop a code of ethics to include suppliers, have a strong CSR policy, make a pledge. You can make a pledge to transparent reporting, financials, ethical advertising and ethical marketing, supply chain collaborative reporting. Not only will you report on your greenhouse gases and carbon footprint, you will also involve your direct suppliers. And it's really difficult to do that. Collaborative reporting, we call it collaborative reporting with suppliers. Use ethics to create a strong employer brand. And people are very key in this industry. A lot of people live in this industry. So people are very important. And you can have gender diversity, especially in the board of directors and senior management, where there's more women that will play a role. Fair trading policies, where you'll pay suppliers a fair price. Develop a corporate story, corporate storytelling. You're learning that in CDC. Using your sustainability credentials that you can boast about, you can create a nice corporate story. Focus on data protection, privacy, and cybersecurity. So this is under social performance, the first point. The second point was engaging key stakeholders and pressure groups, right? That's under social. So strong stakeholder focus. Customers are very important stakeholder. You have identified that already, so you need to put them in the center of everything you do. You also do some good initiatives called the Ford Driving Skills for Life, free driver education program, good. Then you also do something called the Ford Smart Mobility Program, aims to increase mobility and provide autonomous driverless vehicles, good. And you have a vision focused on transportation and mobility needs of customers, good. So you have a worldwide network of dealers who are also very important stakeholders, not only your customers. Your intermediaries are very important, your suppliers are very important, your shareholders are very important, right? So you have a lot of very important stakeholders. And you need to be mindful of pressure group actions. There are union strikes, there are industry pressure groups, which has created huge losses for the auto industry. The case study tells us. And a program on road safety regulations can be undertaken. You have to be very strong in your labor laws and compliance to all the regulations. Engage local communities. Maintain open, honest communication with stakeholders. Practice responsible sourcing practices, responsible sourcing, and provide training to build capacity to manage supply chain issues. You have to train your suppliers and integrate sustainability matrices or matrix into their sourcing decisions of suppliers. So I've given you a lot of thoughts here under these 3 points. Let's go to the third one. Under social, the third point is value-led culture and improving working conditions. So culture is very important. Your staff also are very, very important stakeholder. So your customers, your distributors, your suppliers, your shareholders, your staff, all very important stakeholders. Sign up with the carbon literacy project. I want you to Google this. This is very popular in the UK. Many companies have signed up with the carbon literacy project. Please Google it. So they are a company that certifies staff. They are a company that trains staff and certifies employees. So you can sign up with the carbon literacy project for training and employee motivation. Now, the moment you do this, the examiner knows, wow, this student is talking serious stuff, right? Because we don't have this kind of thing in Sri Lanka. So you're doing a UK exam, remember, you're not doing a Sri Lankan exam. In fact, all of you can sign up with carbon literacy project. They give you a lot of training programs free as well, right? Develop a policy on health and safety. Employ staff rewards and recognition programs, empowerment, regular staff surveys. Remember, we are talking about social, so staff is an important stakeholder. Introduce a diversity, equity, and inclusive policy. There's something that you do that is called One Ford, which is a cross-border family networks, partnerships, and collaborations. Very good. So we are talking about some of the good things you're doing as well, and some of the things that you need to start. And staff is a strong source of competitive advantage because your industry is highly competitive. Reintroduce the pro-employee, pro-union strategy. In 2001, you did that. That CEO did that during difficult times, which was about caring about each other to increase employment engagement and labor relations. Focus on human rights issues. So you can see there are so many points I've given you to talk about that you can expand into a sentence. But don't try to write about all this. You'll write 10,000 words. You can't. Then let's come into the environment. There's so many things you can say about the environment. Planet. Improving sustainability credentials. Your sustainability record or credentials. So you have to accelerate your net zero goals, because if you look at companies like Toyota, I went into the annual reports, Mercedes, they have very ambitious net zero goals. You are saying you will achieve net zero in 2050. But most of these companies are talking net zero in 2030 or 2032. So you are like 20 years away. So you have to accelerate your net zero goals. Of course, you are doing some net zero carbon neutrality in EU production facilities. But not only that, you're a global company now, right? And you are saying logistics and suppliers, you will look at net zero by 2035. So you have to see how you can accelerate your net zero goals, which means you need to play your EV space very strongly. You need to play your EV space. Your electric vehicle segment you must be a very serious player there. Of course, your latest two models have won awards. Your latest two EV models have been placed globally number 11 in terms of the best ever electric vehicle produced. But that is not enough. You need to continuously come up with a strategy for electric vehicle proliferation, because that is the future. Establish clear decarbonizing timelines. Integrate sustainability practices with business strategy. exploit the demand for flexible green transportation options, and attempt to win awards for sustainability reporting. Invest in smart manufacturing, align plans with ESG commitments. I took you through what ESG is, and review them quarterly. Assign short-term targets linked to staff remuneration. Compliance to industry laws on vehicle standards, ISO 14001, which is the environmental ISO industry standard. Develop a biodiversity plan because you are ruining the environment quite a bit. Embrace UN sustainability development goals, own a few and have some initiatives. Use sustainable materials for manufacturing and make a clear commitment by dedicating resources and set clear KPIs. Use the GRI standards index. So I will take you through that. You can Google it as well. To publicly report on sustainability impacts. Please use these, okay? Somewhere when I read your answer, all these, the ESG, SDGs, GRI, ISO, all these things need to come up. Right? So you have to put them in sentences, see how students are using them in answers. So GRI standard index is to publicly report on sustainability impacts and establish a science-based approach to climate change. You can involve universities as well in your research and development efforts. Then the second point in terms of the planet is circular economy and end of life. When I say end of life, end of the product's life. That is cars, vehicles. So we need to have a regenerative business strategy. I spoke of that. Recycling will help address shortages in the supply chain because you have a semiconductor shortage, which is affecting your production. EU is the first to adopt the circular approach. Good. 11 million cars in the EU are taken out of circulation, the case study tells us. And we need to initiate an organized deconstruction scheme. So you can see you have to bring these terms out, okay? You have to bring these terms out in your own words. I've given it them here, and the answer, it needs to come out. And you need to come up with a plan to address the electric vehicle battery waste, end of life waste, because it's a huge issue. Target to reduce efficient use, increase reuse, recycle of waste. And plastic waste in packaging, you are talking about 30% by 2030. The case study tells us. But single-use plastic, you need to try and you go into single-use plastic. High oil prices will boost EV sales, water, air, and energy conservation targets. Using secondary raw materials, eliminate single-use plastics, and invest in renewable energy sources, right? So you can see I've given you so many ideas on the environment. There's one more, green consumerism and responsible marketing. So there's something called the Green Claims Code. I want you to read up. In the UK, it's very popular. The Green Claims Code, right? Apply all these UK British principles because your examiner is British, not Sri Lankan, not Kenyan, not American, British. So you have to talk British language, British, what they are exposed to. So the Green Claims Code, read up and apply. Avoid greenwashing. That is overly talking about green products when it's really not green. Younger gen may use ride hailing, ride sharing, riding a bike, and the subscription model as opposed to owning a car, which is a huge threat. They are substitute products. So unless you have a business model and you also start getting into mobility as a service and go into those segments, Toyota has got there with Kinto, ride sharing. Toyota has a sub-brand called Kinto with ride sharing. It's not Toyota Kinto. No one knows that. So it's a ride sharing app. And they are into hailing, sharing, subscriptions, micro mobility. They are into all those areas because they see mobility as a service. They're not only manufacturing cars. They look at they widen their scope of their industry because they say that we are in the industry of mobility, not making cars. So you need to, there's opportunities in all these areas, including micro mobility. Micro mobility are those little scooters, those little things that you hover around, hoverboards and things like that. Very popular. If you go to the West, you'll find those everywhere on the streets. All you need to do is just tap your credit card and you start it and you can go like kilometers, so many kilometers really fast. And there are girls using it, pregnant mothers using it. They're so popular. Micro mobility. Short term, you go quickly fast because roads, sometimes you can't travel, cars can't go on them. There's a lot of traffic. Micro mobility is very important, right? So, I mean, you've not even thought about those areas, but you have to, because you are now competing with the biggest players who have really expanded into those areas because there's a lot of money in all those businesses. And increase emphasis on green and blue energy sources. Enhance your product range, especially in the EV segment, and your appeal in the EV segment. And develop a ESG strategy with timelines. So I've given you a lot of points here to talk of. Actually, you can write 10,000 words here. The idea here is for you to pick and choose what you want to write. Right? And in terms of the structure of the answer, so what I've done here is, so if I repeat the question, critically appraise the extent to which Ford has been successful in delivering its CSR agenda to create a competitive advantage. The truth is they don't have one. There's no competitive. So you have to be very critical. You don't have a strong competitive advantage. Others are streets ahead. So there are certain things that you're doing which you can talk of, but you have to say that you don't have a strong competitive advantage, right? And then in the introduction, you can provide a critical discussion, use a few citations from the recommended reading I've given you as to why Ford should use strategic CSR. Why CSR? Very small introduction. You can bring in the Mandalos here if you want, or you can link the audit, then go into a table or a paragraph format with subheadings. If you go into a table, you can provide a rating. So this is the same thing we looked at. These are the same headings. Profit, people, and planet. You can first go into economic performance. Critical appraisals of Ford's approach to CSR. Same points that I've given you in the table. So you have to pick and choose what you want to use. Social performance. You can't write about all this because it's too much of word count, 750 plus 10%. Biggest problem in CIM is word count and environmental factors, which we just discussed. And then you can talk about stakeholder expectations and concerns. In conclusion, you can talk about how you can build a business case for CSR. And that's the next slide. I'll go into that, right? Building a business case for CSR. There are 4 factors. You can talk about that if you want. Some A-grade students have spoken about it. Some haven't. They've still got A's. So I don't want all of you to write the same answer, okay? And you can, in conclusion, talk about the importance of developing a positioning strategy for Ford with its sustainability credentials. But you need to first work on strong sustainability credentials and KPIs, and then come up with a positioning strategy to differentiate. Using strategic CSR for competitive advantage, integrating your social sustainability agenda into business strategy. So that can be a very short conclusion. And please make sure all these contemporary sustainability concepts, these words, are used in your answer. Please make sure they're used to your answer. If you read the answers, students have not only used them, they've highlighted them as well, so that the examiner will see it. And in creating a business case for CSR, you can see the author here, Carlville, in the book Sustainable Marketing. This is a recommended reading book I gave you. Talks about how you create a winning strategy, a business case for CSR. The first step is identify areas of social impact that fit with the core strategy, products, services, and operations. So first is you need to find a fit between your social impact and your business strategy. Rather than now, if Cambridge College says, we want to grow trees, does it really have a direct correlation of growing trees versus the education business we are in? No. But if we come up with a CSR strategy for CCBM, saying we will do career guidance to students who are lost, who don't know what to do with their career. We go into schools, we go into deprived rural areas and talk to them about how to build a small business, how to practice marketing, how to plan their career. So that has a direct link, fit with our business strategy and our social impact area. So that is what it says. Company needs to identify what you're really good at, that you can create a social impact, and that needs to fit with your core business strategy. And then make a commitment to dedicating resources. So your financial resources, human resources, physical resources, intangible resources, you have to make a commitment. And then set clear KPIs. What do you want to achieve? Quarterly, what do you want to achieve? Bi-yearly, how many do you want to achieve? Annually, what do you want to achieve? And finally, connect, engage, and communicate with stakeholders. Right? So that is about it for me. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Shall we look at a few more A-grade answers? Right? I'll maybe look at a few more A-grade answers. If you do have any questions, you can ask me. Let's look at a few A-grade answers. This is a simple task. Actually, all these are simple tasks. You have a very simple case study this time. I must tell you. Very simple case, right? So you can see the student has written the introduction, spoken about Mandela matrix, then gone into a table. Some of them have used data, some of them have not used data. But can you see UNSGDs, ESG? Can you see what I've given the student has written? A grade. Greenwashing. Can you see? So you have to bring those terms and you have to put them in bold. Some data wherever possible. Corporate sustainable reporting, right? Corporate governance, storytelling, UNSGDs. So can you see carbon literacy project, regenerative economy, right? So you can see how the student has really used the terms I've given to score an A grade, right? So if you do as I say, you can win the prize. It is not difficult at all, right? Here's another one. Here's another one. Again, starts with the introduction, 750 words. Mandela goes into the table, critical appraisal, profit, people, and planet, highlighted areas, right? So select a format that best suits you. Here's another one. But don't have the word shell anywhere in your answer, okay? That's going to be a problem. This student has used the Carroll model. And then again, data used in the CSR theory. And you can see how the UN Sustainable Development Goals, a few have been picked here and applied. Then this student, again, Mandelo, introduction, table. Now you can see highlighted some areas, some charts and graphs, and a conclusion. Let's look at the last one. Attractive cover pages. Again, introduction, triple bottom line, and in conclusion, speaking about all the theories that I've given. Right? So there's no one best way to answer. You can use whatever I've given you. Be original, be creative. Only limitation is the word count that you're going to have. Trust me, you're going to write a hell of a lot. Right? Any questions? Anything to clarify? Simple, no? Not difficult, right? Easy. Any questions? World Prize winner, any questions? Next World Prize winner, any questions? No questions? Okay. So I am flying out tomorrow, guys. We are going with about 520 MBA students because a lot of our MBA students are graduating on Friday. So we are going with them. So I'll be back. So my task 2A, I might need to do next week after I come back. So I'll be back on Wednesday again. So maybe if we can do it on Thursday, we'll look at task 2A. So you have about 1 week, right? Task 2A is 25 marks. So we need, it's simple. Task 2A is very simple. Very, very simple. So you focus on what you have to do now because strategic audit must be completed. Task 3 must be completed. Task 1 must be completed. Presentation must be perfect. Cover pages must be done. Convert it into PDF. Email me your work. And if you're in line, I will tell you what to do. Hopefully very soon we will start our one-to-one feedback sessions. So although I have told some of you to start the next task or the next subtask, I have comments to give all of you. I have comments to give all of you. And I'm waiting till you finish the entire assignment because I want integration of all tasks. Because we can't tell you that you have done task 3A very well because it is linked to all the other areas. So we have to look at the whole cohesive assignment and then see whether based on the marking scheme, whether you're in the passing range, you know, like a B or an A at least. So that is our coaching style. So we don't believe in just telling you, okay, task 3B, you're passing, but then you miserably fail task 2. Then still you're not going to pass, right? Because task 2, it has the highest marks. So therefore, the feedback will be given after you finish the entire assignment. For now, complete things fast. Complete it fast because then you can get about 4 feedback sessions. But if you complete it 2 days before the submission, then you only get 1 feedback session. So race to complete it based on the guidelines I've given you. As soon as we are done, by end of the month, first week, we can have all of your first discussions. Then you have still 3 weeks to have another 2-3 discussions and go into a brilliant answer. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you very much. Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Sir, thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night.